All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy New Year. I want to talk more about this Dillian White Tyson Fury situation because as time goes on, more and more information's coming out. And by no means am I here to defend anybody because there's plenty of blame to go around on all parties. Nobody is devoid of sin here. If you want to talk about Tyson Fury, the WBC, Dillian White, and even Eddie Hearn to some degree, everyone has done something that can be questioned and criticized in regards to this situation. And there's a little bit of hypocrisy on all sides, to be honest with you. And Tyson Fury, as we know, as great of a fighter as he is, and arguably the number one heavyweight in the world today, right? He's pulled out of a lot of fights. He's never been a reliable champion. He's allowed himself to be stripped before. He's done questionable things in the past that put him in a bad situation with the sanctioning bodies and boxing when it comes to failing the PED test, and all of his escapades outside of the ring that have been distractions. We can't really defend Tyson Fury on that front, regardless of what he's done recently. He's kind of redeemed himself to some degree, but again, the COVID situation and how he acted during that time period when he tested positive for COVID, not getting the second vaccine shot, going out after testing positive for COVID, people can question all that stuff. Eddie Hearn, again, I think has been a little bit hypocritical in this situation as well with Dillian Whyte, because ironically enough, I put a link in the description box, and it was okay for Eddie Hearn to offer Dillian Whyte roughly almost the exact amount, I believe. If you do the conversion, 4 million pounds equates to about $5.5 million, the same amount of money that Bob Arum and Top Rank have offered Dillian Whyte to fight Tyson Fury. Eddie Hearn offered Dillian Whyte to fight Anthony Joshua back in 2019. And the difference being is Anthony Joshua had 4 belts at the time, if you want to count the IBO, where Tyson Fury only has 1. And you could even argue that Anthony Joshua is a bigger name, even still not being the champion and having lost recently, than Tyson Fury is in the UK and arguably maybe worldwide. Not in the United States, but in the UK, which is where the fight would take place with Dillian Whyte, regardless if it's Tyson Fury or if it's Anthony Joshua. Um, you know, that's where the fight would be. And obviously, Anthony Joshua's popularity would definitely contribute to the success of that event. And like I said, I believe Anthony Joshua is a bigger name in the UK than Tyson Fury, and probably worldwide outside of the United States. So if that amount of money was okay back then, and this was pre-pandemic too, so there was no uncertainty economically, or no uncertainty with the traveling and the travel bans and all that stuff. Uh, if Eddie Hearn was okay offering Dillian Whyte that amount of money for arguably a bigger fight at the time, then this Tyson Fury fight would be, in my opinion. They're still both big fights, but you could argue that the Anthony Joshua fight with Dillian Whyte, the rematch, uh, you know, that was before Anthony Joshua had lost. He was on top of his status, basically being undefeated. Uh, he was in a stronger position. Not that he's not in a strong position now, but he was in a much stronger position than Anthony Joshua, and you could argue was more popular then than he is now, right? So that fight back then is a bigger fight, in my opinion. It would have been a bigger fight than this Tyson Fury fight with Dillian Whyte today, and he was offered the same amount of money, right? And once again, I reiterate, pre-pandemic with no economic uncertainty. So Eddie Hearn is a little bit hypocritical there, because it was okay for him to offer Dillian Whyte that, but now that it's Bob Arum offering him that, it's too low. And what people have to realize is they're pointing out that rule by the WBC where it says that if you are the interim champion, which Dillian Whyte is, you can get up to 45%. But the key word there is up to. It's not guaranteed that you get 45%. It's up to, right? So this fight is going to go to purse bids January 11th, and it's come to my attention that the WBC has set the split amount to 80-20. Now, if a deal can be reached before this fight goes to purse bids, then obviously the split could change. I know that Bob Arum had said that they would go 75-25, but the WBC even went lower than that. And the reason why I think the WBC did that, I'm not justifying them doing that, but they have an axe to grind with Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte has come out and talked poorly about them. He's threatened to sue them. And as a result, they're in arbitration right now because Dillian Whyte doesn't trust the WBC. And I understand that. Again, the WBC hasn't treated Dillian Whyte fair either. But Dillian Whyte has a history of turning down fights himself and pulling out of fights himself too. So he's no angel in this situation either. He's not cooperated with the WBC, and I understand that he has an axe to grind with the WBC because, again, it's been a tumultuous relationship between both parties. The WBC has had him ranked number one for the longest time. They did order the mandatory fight, but now that there's litigation, they've kind of rescinded on that now. So did Dillian Whyte complicate his situation by threatening legal action and going to arbitration with the WBC? Has he dragged out this process? But also, too, it's been said that there's not going to be any fights in the UK up until March of 2022. They're putting a freeze on fights, from what I understand, because of the coronavirus, I believe, right? So at the very least, this fight could not happen before March, and this arbitration is supposed to be completed on March. So there's a lot of moving parts going on here, but you have to ask yourself, did Dillian Whyte overcomplicate this situation by not letting the process play out and adding some complications to this situation by threatening legal action and ultimately having this fight go to arbitration, right? So the fight's going to go to purse bids on January 11th. And Eddie Hearn could win this purse bid because he has the bigger piggy bank when you want to compare his resources to Top Ranks and Frank Warren's. Obviously, he has more money in the piggy bank than they do because of the DAZN deal that he has, right? But either way, he cannot determine what the purse split is going to be because the WBC has already determined that. Now the parties can negotiate that outside of what the WBC has ordered here in terms of the split. It's up to them to work that out. But at this point in time, Jillian Whyte is not guaranteed anything more than 20% if it does go to purse bids, regardless of who wins this purse bid. So Dillian Whyte is in a no-win situation, in my opinion, in terms of leverage here. Even if his promoter does win the purse bid, he's only going to get 20% of what his promoter puts up to stage this fight. So regardless of how much money Eddie Hearn puts up, in order to satisfy Dillian Whyte, he would have to put up an exorbitant amount of money. And even at that, Dillian Whyte would only get 20% of that. Now, if Eddie Hearn wants to give him a bigger guarantee, I'm sure that's up to him as well. I can't really speak on what Eddie Hearn's going to do in terms of trying to satisfy Dillian Whyte if he does win the purse bid. But at the end of the day, Tyson Fury, regardless of what is bid for this fight, is, according to the WBC, going to get 80% of the pie, right? So definitely WBC and Dillian Whyte aren't on great terms. right? They're not on good terms, right? Bob Arum and Frank Warren kind of have an axe to grind with Eddie Hearn as well, right? Because Bob Arum wasn't too happy with Eddie Hearn winning and actually bidding against him for the Teofimo Lopez George Kambosos fight. He wasn't happy about that when that first transpired, right? So Bob Arum, regardless of whether or not he'll do business with Eddie Hearn, doesn't seem to be the biggest fan of Eddie Hearn, and there seems to be a little bit of bad blood there because of that, right? But we have to look at the history of Dillian Whyte, right? He has a history of not cooperating with the WBC. He has a history of pricing himself out of heavyweight championship fights. He did it with Anthony Joshua back in 2019 pre-pandemic, right? He was offered the same amount of money, and that's just the guarantee. This is without the pay-per-view upside. Now, I put some links in the description box, and you guys can reference these links. Fair enough, against Alexander Povetkin in the rematch, Jillian Whyte did make 4 million pounds, which once again equates to roughly $5.5 million US dollars. So he did get the same amount of money to fight Alexander Povetkin than he is going to be getting to fight Tyson Fury. But you have to keep in mind this. He also split 50-50 with Alexander Povetkin. Now, if he's such the A side, then why would he have to split 50-50 with Alexander Povetkin? I know he lost the first fight, but same thing with Joshua. When Joshua lost the first fight to Ruiz, he was still in the driver's seat in terms of the revenue split, which Dillian Whyte had to go 50-50. I'm not saying he had to, but he did go 50-50 with Alexander Povetkin. And he was supposedly the A side in that situation because the fight was in the UK, and obviously he's the name in the UK. So he did make a good amount of money for that fight, and roughly the same as what he's being offered for Tyson Fury. But you have to look at this. The back end money, I think, would be a lot more in the Tyson Fury fight because of the amount of pay-per-views that it would do in the UK compared to the amount of pay-per-views that he had with Povetkin in the rematch. So without question, he would still make, in my opinion, substantially more money in the Fury fight if you factor in the back end money, because I believe it would do a ton more pay-per-views than the Alexander Povetkin rematch did, right? So the potential to make a lot of money in this Fury fight, even with the 20%, is still there. Now, do I think the 20% is fair? No, I think at the very least, if it was me, I would think that Dillian Whyte deserves at least 30%. 45, again, it says up to 45. It's not guaranteed 45. That's a stretch, right? Considering how if Dillian Whyte is in such a strong position, why would he have to go 50-50 with Alexander Povetkin in the rematch, right? So Dillian Whyte definitely is a draw in the UK. There's no question about that. Tyson Fury, we don't know. I'm sure he would be a draw in the UK as well. He hasn't fought there in a long time, roughly 3 years. But at the end of the day, still think the fight would be a big fight in the UK. And where would either man really go at this point in time? What bigger fight would there be out there for either man, right? But once again, Dillian Whyte has not done himself any favors by taking up litigation against the WBC, having this go to arbitration, further drawing out and complicating the process. If the fight was going to go to purse bids, then why go to arbitration, right? And do I believe that the WBC is basically retaliating against Dillian Whyte in this situation because of what he's did? Yeah, I think they intentionally lowballed the percentage split for Dillian Whyte because of personal feelings against him. Yeah, I believe that. I mean, they offered a finer eliminator back in 2018 when Dillian Whyte was positioning himself to be the mandatory. He was ranked number 1 for like 3 years, as we said, before he lost to Povetkin. But they ordered an eliminator. Now, again, was that fair that they offered an eliminator? Should they have offered an eliminator? In my opinion, no, but they did. and he scoffed at that eliminator against Luis Ortiz. So once again, he's turned his nose up against WBC. And again, I'm not saying that you have to kiss the WBC's ass, but at the end of the day, if you want to fight for their title, you got to come to some type of compromise with them. You have to play ball with them to some degree, right? Because their WBC is not going to go out of their way to do Dillian Whyte any favors, whether that's fair or not. Again, there's some friction between the two parties, right? There's definitely some friction between the two parties, and it's in the WBC's best interest to have someone like Tyson Fury as their champion, because obviously the sanctioning fee that Tyson Fury can generate would be much higher than the sanctioning fee that Dillian Whyte would get, right? So they're going to be more vested in Tyson Fury than they are Dillian Whyte. And again, not to sound redundant, but Dillian Whyte, has taken up legal action. And again, the WBC, if you go back to 2004 with Gianfranco Raciciani, he sued the WBC and he won a $31 million lawsuit back in 2004. And ever since that situation has happened, the WBC has really been careful and really went out of their way when they do their rules, and they've made these provisions and these revisions, I should say, and provisions to these rules, stipulations and caveats to these rules to protect themselves after that incident. If you notice, a lot of these rules say at the WBC's discretion, case-by-case basis, up to, could be, maybe. Nothing is concrete and definitive now in the WBC rule literature because of what happened back then. Ultimately, Raciciani settled out of court with the WBC, and he could have taken down the WBC back in 2004, and he chose not to. So since then, there's been a revamp in the WBC's rules. So how does this whole thing play out? Thank you so much, Slide Tendencies, for becoming a new member. I appreciate that. So how does this whole thing play out? Well, January 11th is going to be interesting, right? How much will Eddie Hearn bid for this fight? And if he does win the purse bid, how is he going to satisfy not only Dillian Whyte, but Tyson Fury? And at the end of the day, it's up to Tyson Fury to decide what he wants to do. Because if it does go to purse bids and Eddie Hearn does win the purse bid, then he's under no obligation to do what Top Rank or Frank Warren wants him to do, because they'll be taken out of the equation if they lose the purse bid. Just like Teofimo Lopez in his situation, Top Rank was taken out of the situation and the equation, and Eddie Hearn was steering the ship at that point, right? So would Tyson Fury want to fight Dillian Whyte on DAZN? I don't think it would matter, because again, they could still put the fight on in the UK on pay-per-view, but maybe they couldn't, because again, the UK has DAZN. So how would they make this fight financially suitable for both fighters if this fight does go on DAZN? Would Eddie Hearn would this be one of those pay-per-view fights, or could this be the first pay-per-view fight that we see on DAZN? If Eddie Hearn does win the purse bid and Eddie Hearn decides to go the DAZN route, how would that play out? Would that be one of those pay-per-view fights that they had rumored to be putting on, right? How would they do that? Because if people in the UK and people in the US are going to be able to view this fight on DAZN with their monthly membership, then that would phase out the pay-per-view. Could you put that fight on pay-per-view in the United States? Would that be a sellable fight here? Right? Happy New Year, Ryan Hong, to you as well. So it's a very interesting situation, but I think there's plenty of blame to go around, and there's been hypocrisy on all sides here, right? There's been hypocrisy on all sides here. And obviously Bob Arum and Frank Warren, they're going to try to maximize their revenue and their piece of the pie here too as well. No promoter likes to share the bill with another promoter. If promoters could do all in-house fights. It's in their best interest financially to do so. So, you know, this is a fight where you would think that the promoters don't want to chop up the pot here, because it's not a situation where it would be Fury versus Joshua, which that fight would be so huge that it would make financial sense for these promoters to work together. Whereas it's better off for all parties involved that they can do this fight solo in order to maximize their cut of the pie. But at the end of the day, if it does go to purse bids and Eddie Hearn wins the purse bid, then it's going to be up to Tyson Fury to decide whether he wants to fight Dillian Whyte or not. He has the right to relinquish his WBC title if he so chooses to do so. And regardless, again, I have to keep hammering this point home. Regardless of how much Eddie Hearn bids, if the WBC, like they have stated, if it's going to be 80-20, then regardless of what Eddie Hearn bids, Eddie Hearn would only be obligated to pay Dillian Whyte 20%, and he would have to pay Tyson Fury 80%. Would Tyson Fury be happy with that? Would Bob Arum be happy with that? Would Frank Warren be happy with that? It doesn't matter if Bob Arum or Frank Warren are happy or not. If they lose the purse bid, they have no leverage. They have no leg to stand on. It's going to be, the ball's going to be in Eddie Hearn and Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte's court, and they're going to have to agree upon something. So how much could Eddie Hearn bid for this fight? That's an interesting question. And where would this fight be broadcast? And who would be the one to put the kibosh on this deal? If Tyson Fury says, yes, okay, well, I'll fight Dillian Whyte with the 80-20 split. And then Dillian Whyte says, I want more than the 20% split. If I don't get more than the 20% split, then I'm going to not fight Tyson Fury. Or if Tyson Fury says, well, I don't want to fight without my promoters being involved. I don't want to fight Dillian Whyte on DAZN. At the end of the day, in my opinion, and I'm going to just play out the possible scenarios. If Eddie Hearn wins the purse bid and it's going to be an 80-20 split in Tyson Fury's favor, and Tyson Fury decides I'm going to vacate the title, even though I'm going to get 80% of the pot, then I would blame Tyson Fury for vacating the title and not upholding his obligation as a champion, right? But if Dillian Whyte says, you know what, I don't want to fight Tyson Fury for anything less than 35-40%. Okay, I don't want the 45, but I'll take 35 or 30%. I'm not going to take the 20. And he walks away, then you got to blame him. You can't really blame Eddie Hearn if he wins the purse bid. He wins the purse bid. The only thing you could say is, why was $5 million good for Dillian Whyte, or $5.5 million good for Dillian Whyte when he fought Anthony Joshua, and there was 4 belts on the line, and it was Joshua at that time, I believe, arguably was more popular than Fury is now, especially in the UK. So why was it okay then and it's not okay now? So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself too, how bad does Dillian Whyte want to be champion? Does he want to be champion more than he wants to make money here? And obviously it's all about making money. He should be compensated. I'm not here to count his pockets, and I'm not here to sit there and say that I wouldn't try to make the most amount of money that I possibly could if I was in Dillian Whyte's situation. So at the end of the day, let's see what the arbitrator decides here. And let's see if they could work something out and compromise on this split, and the WBC would be okay with it. Let's see. First of all, we have to wait and see who's going to win the purse bid on January 11th and how much everyone's going to bid. And 20% of a big pot is still a lot of money, right? So if Eddie Hearn bids a substantial amount of money for the fight, and even if Dillian Whyte's getting 20%, and that 20% equals out to more than 5.5 million, then maybe Dillian Whyte would kind of change his mind on that and cave in a little bit and say, okay, I'm cool with that. But if Dillian Whyte continues to demand, I want 10 million guarantee, and the money's not there, even if Eddie Hearn can't provide that 10 million for him, then I would say that Dillian Whyte once again is pricing himself out of another title fight, just as he did for Anthony Joshua, right? Because again, when you look at the guarantees, once again, you're not counting the back end money, the cut of the pay-per-view revenue. So let's do some numbers here. And again, I hate being the bean counter, because again, I'm not an accountant, but let's just speak hypothetically here. So the UK pay-per-views for that fight, if it was going to be on pay-per-view instead of DAZN, I don't know how it would be on pay-per-view in the UK if it's going to be Eddie Hearn winning the purse, but I don't know if Eddie Hearn has a pay-per-view arm there. I don't know how he would facilitate that fight being on pay-per-view if he doesn't have that deal with Sky anymore. I don't know if he could negotiate with Sky, or if he could, if there could be a situation with Fight TV over there. I know he's done pay-per-views on Fight TV over there. But let's say hypothetically he was able to broker a deal with some broadcaster over in the UK, and it was going to be on pay-per-view instead of DAZN, which I think ultimately it would end up being on pay-per-view. They would work out a situation with DAZN where it could be on pay-per-view, because Dillian Whyte is not signed to DAZN. He doesn't have a contract with DAZN. So I'm sure Eddie Hearn could work out some type of pay-per-view situation with another broadcaster over there in the UK. If not Sky, someone else. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, it does 1 million pay-per-view buys over in the UK, right? And how much are the UK pay-per-views over there? Let's take a look. UK pay-per-view boxing price. I want to say it's I think it's 28 pounds, but let me just double check. So for Joshua Usyk, it was on pay-per-view, and it was 24.95 pounds, right? So it was 24.95 pounds. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, this fight would probably be 28 pounds, right? Let's do the conversion. Pounds to dollars. So that would be, okay. So let's say 28. That would be roughly $38, right? So I don't know how they do the split over there in the UK. Right, in terms of, I don't know how the pay-per-view gets divided up. I don't know how much they have to give to the broadcaster. So let's do this. 1 million times 38. So that would be 38 million. So I don't know how they do the split there, but let's say for all intents and purposes, they have to give 30% to a broadcaster. 30, let's say they have to give 40% of that to a broadcaster. Again, this is just me spitballing here. We're going to do worst case scenarios, right? So $38 million. It's $38 million. Let's just say that it's going to be some type of percentage going back to some broadcaster here, right? Well, let's just say, let's be aggressive here, and let's say 40% has to go back. All right. So 38 subtracted by 52. So 38 million subtracted 15. So there's 22,800,000 left over. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, Dillian Whyte gets 20% of that. and I'm being conservative here. So he'd get an additional, at the very least, in my opinion, 4.560 million pounds, right? Plus his 5.5, his 5.5 million guarantee, right? So he would get roughly, in my opinion, that's 10 million pounds, right? That's 10 million, that's 10 million, that's 10 million pounds, right? So he'd roughly get about $10 million for the fight if you factor in the pay-per-view revenue. At the very least, he would get $10 million, right? Now, who else could he fight right now and have it be put on pay-per-view and generate $10 million? Now that's conservative numbers. He could make even more than that, but I'm kind of spitballing here, and I'm looking at worst case scenarios for at the very least with the pay-per-view revenue factored in. I think Dillian Whyte would make at least $10 million to fight Tyson Fury. Who else could he fight right now and make $10 million? All right. And if someone in the chat can help me out and explain to me how it works over in the UK in terms of how they do the splits there, I wish Papoose was here because he kind of understands the situation. I'd love for him to be able to help me out here, but at the end of the day, I just don't see where Dillian Whyte goes to make the amount of money he would make to fight Tyson Fury. Who else could he fight? Now, if Tyson Fury does decide to vacate, then the WBC would elevate Dillian Whyte to full champion, and then he would be in the driver's seat too, right? But again, in terms of money, even him being WBC champion, who would he fight to generate the same amount of money he would generate over in the UK if he was to fight Tyson Fury? Now, he could fight Dillian Whyte. I'm sure that would still be Dillian Whyte could fight Deontay Wilder, and I'm sure that would still be a lucrative fight over in the UK. But would it be as big as a Tyson Fury fight between Dillian Whyte? Now, you can argue that he'd get a better percentage split, but once again, the pot would be smaller. So you can get a bigger percentage split of a smaller pot, or you can get a smaller percentage split of a bigger pot. You could still make more money with the smaller percentage because the pot would be bigger. So at the end of the day, regardless if Dillian Whyte gets elevated to full champion, regardless if he fights a Deontay Wilder, and who even knows if Deontay Wilder would want to go over to the UK and fight Dillian Whyte? Who even knows if Deontay Wilder would even want to fight again? That's not even a guarantee that fight could happen. So say Deontay Wilder says no. Even if he says yes, I don't think Dillian Whyte versus Deontay Wilder, even with Dillian Whyte being full champion, would garner a bigger purse for Dillian Whyte than if he were to fight Tyson Fury with the smaller percentage split. So at the end of the day, I think Dillian Whyte still wins here from a financial standpoint even if he does go 80-20. Now, if they can work out a deal where it's 75-25 and he gets a bump up of 5%, that could be feasible too, right? It would be in their best interests, in my opinion, to accept 75-25 from Top Rank, because again, if it does go to purse bids, regardless, I said, and I hate to keep repeating myself, regardless if Eddie Hearn wins it or not, right? 20% is less than 25%. So the WBC has an axe to grind. They're retaliating against Dillian Whyte, and they're punishing Dillian Whyte, in my opinion. So why allow them to do that when Top Rank is offering you 25%, right? And maybe they would go up to 30%. Who knows? But if you allow this process to play out, if you're Dillian Whyte, you can end up losing in the long run, right? By taking this to arbitration, you've dragged out the process even further, right? And you've strained your relationship with the WBC. And again, WBC, I'm not here to defend the WBC. He has every right to be mad at the WBC. But at the end of the day, if you want to fight for their title and you want to be their champion, then you have to play ball with them. And if not, just say fuck it and go for the Joshua Usyk winner, right? Do that, right? Now, would Joshua want to fight Fury without the title? Regardless, or Joshua or Usyk want to fight Fury without the title? If Usyk wins, I think he's more about being undisputed, right? So there's no guarantee that Usyk would want to fight Fury if Fury does not no longer have the WBC title. So if Dillian Whyte does get elevated to full champion, right, he could fight the winner of Usyk versus Joshua, and that could be a mega fight in the UK for all the marbles. It would be undisputed, right? But still, would that fight be bigger? Because he would once again, even though he would be the WBC champion, he would once again still be the B side against an Anthony Joshua. And arguably at that point, if Usyk was to win the rematch, then that would add to his leverage. And he could sit there and say, well, I want the fight to be in the Ukraine, and I'm going to give Dillian Whyte 20% again. So even being full champion, he's going to be the B side, in my opinion, against the winner of Usyk versus Joshua. Now, you can argue that if the fight was in the UK, that he could say he's the A side against Usyk. But at that point in time, Usyk would have beaten Joshua twice if he were to win. And then I think he would have a lot more added leverage because he beat Joshua twice. And everyone knows who Usyk is now in the UK based off of his accomplishments. And again, I think he would still be in the driver's seat, Usyk would be, right? And at that point in time, I think Usyk would say, you know what? I've been fighting on the road long enough. I'll fight Dillian Whyte, but he's going to have to come over to the Ukraine. They have huge stadiums over there, right? Come over there and fight me. We can still put the fight on DAZN, but I can put, the fight could still be on pay-per-view, and I can still get a huge amount of back-end revenue by the by the Ukraine pay-per-view outlets over there, right? And I think Usyk would still be in the driver's seat. So regardless, Dillian Whyte is in no position of power, regardless of how anything plays out here. In my opinion, he's in no position of power. And when you're not in any position of power, whether it's fair or not, no one who has leverage in any facet of life, whether it be boxing, business, or otherwise, right? If you're a worker and you know that no one can do your job but you, and if you were to leave, that your company would suffer great losses, then you would say to them, either you do this, that, and the third, and pay me this, or I'm going to leave. And they're at your mercy. They need you. Say you're the only one that could do your job to the level, to the highest level, and no one can do your job to the level that you can do it and as good as you. You're going to use that leverage. So anyone that has the power is going to use their leverage. So we can't sit there and criticize guys for using leverage. Canelo uses his leverage. Floyd Mayweather used his leverage. Everyone uses their leverage, right? Look at the splits that guys like Tyson, guys like Tyson would make 30 million and his opponents would make 3. Same thing with Mayweather. So this is nothing new in the sport of boxing. So let's not act brand new here and act like, oh, well, Tyson Fury is being greedy here or because again, all people in positions of power use their leverage. So why would Tyson Fury be any different here? All right. So as I said, if Dillian Whyte really wants to fight Fury and he wants to become full champion by winning it instead of being elevated to it, right? Then he would have to play ball at some point. And if he's going to hold firm to that 45%, $10 million guarantee, then he's going to end up pricing himself out of this fight the same way he priced himself out of the Joshua fight back in 2019. Happy New Year, Duncan McLeod, as well. So you have to ask yourself, at the end of the day, if this does play out and Eddie Hearn wins the purse bid and the split is 80-20, and Dillian Whyte says, I'm not going to fight unless I get more than 20%. And then they say they budge, say Top Rank says, or say Tyson Fury agrees. It's not at that point, it won't even be Top Rank. It'll be Tyson Fury's decision. Say he decides, okay, I'll go 25% with you and no more. And Dillian Whyte still doesn't accept the fight. Then it's going to be Dillian Whyte's fault. Now, if Tyson Fury says, I'm going to vacate the title because I don't want to fight under the Matchroom banner, I want it to be a Top Rank fight, then it's going to be his fault. And if he allows himself to be stripped of the title because of that, then it's going to be his fault. So in my opinion, if Tyson Fury allows himself to be stripped because he's not happy that Eddie Hearn won the purse bid, if Eddie Hearn were to win the purse bid, then it's going to be Tyson Fury's fault. If Tyson Fury doesn't care if he's fighting under Matchroom or Top Rank or BT Sport, regardless, if he doesn't care what banner he's fighting under, as long as he's getting paid, because at that point it will be Tyson Fury's decision. Top Rank and Frank Warren will have nothing to do with the situation. So the ball will be in Tyson Fury's court. And if this does play out, and the arbitrator decides that, okay, we're going to go with the 80-20 here and no more, right? And the WBC says, okay, we're cool with that, right? The best case scenario here for Dillian Whyte is that the arbitrator can say, we think you should get more than 20%. Is he going to get 45%? No. I think at the very most, he'll get 30%. If the arbitrator decides, okay, we'll go 30%. And then if Tyson Fury says, I don't want to give him 30%, because again, depending on who wins the purse bid, I don't think Top Rank or BT Sport would beat Eddie Hearn in purse bids negotiations. I don't think it would happen. So I think if it does go to purse bid, I think Eddie Hearn will win. He'll win the purse bid. And and the arbitrator decides in March that we think it should be 30%, and the WBC goes along with that, then it's up to Dillian Whyte to accept that. And if he still is going to be hell-bent on getting that 45%, and he says, no, I don't want the fight, then it's going to be his fault. So that's the thing. If Tyson Fury allows himself to be stripped and vacates the title and fights someone else, right, then I believe it's going to be Tyson Fury's fault. If Dillian Whyte prices himself out, when all is said and done and the arbitration process is completed and the split has been determined, then it's going to be his fault, in my opinion. So who do I blame here? I can't really blame Tyson Fury here. And I know people are going to say, BB, you're a Fury fanboy. But at the end of the day, he is in a position of power. For him to not use that position of power, it just wouldn't make sense. Because no other fighter in his position, whether it be Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, Anthony Joshua, and the list goes on and on. Now, has Anthony Joshua ever given an opponent outside of Vladimir Klitschko 45%? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself that. If this was Anthony Joshua negotiating with Dillian Whyte, do you think he would give Dillian Whyte 45%? Absolutely not. So if we want to criticize Fury, then we would have to criticize Anthony Joshua as well, right? We would have to criticize Eddie Hearn as well, because Eddie Hearn, once again, as I said, that $5.5 million was good when Dillian Whyte was fighting Joshua, because once again, that was an in-house fight. But now all of a sudden it's not good anymore, because now he's dealing with Bob Arum and Top Rank. So this is personal, guys. This is personal on all fronts. You know, Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren do not get along. Eddie Hearn and Top Rank have a working relationship, but there is still some friction there. There is definitely some friction between the WBC and Dillian Whyte, and to some degree Eddie Hearn, because Eddie Hearn has also been very critical of the WBC as well. So WBC is not going to do Matchroom any favors. They're not going to do Dillian Whyte any favors because of the back and forth that's been going on here between all the parties involved. So at the end of the day, you can criticize Tyson Fury all you want, but he has no obligation to do Dillian Whyte any favors, because at the end of the day, he's still arguably the number one guy at heavyweight. People are going to look at him as the number one guy at heavyweight, regardless if he has a WBC title or not. Would I like to see him vacate that title? Would it bother me if he vacated the title? Yeah, because I'm just tired of guys not honoring the belt, honoring the championship. I don't like to see guys vacate titles. I don't like to see guys get stripped. I would like to see Tyson Fury continue to defend that WBC title. And if he were to lose it, let him lose it in the ring. Don't lose it once again like you lost it outside of the ring. But if the arbitrator decides that Whyte should get more than that 20%, and they say let's go to 30, and Matchroom wins the purse bid, and it's a 70-30 split, and Tyson Fury says, nope, I'm not going to give him, I don't want to fight unless he gets more than 20%, unless he gets 20% and not a dollar, not a percentage point more, then you'd have to blame Fury. So we still have to see how this whole thing plays out. But at the very least right now, we have to agree that Dillian Whyte has priced himself out of a title fight before. Dillian Whyte is not in a position of power. The WBC has no obligation, whether they're treating him fairly or not, which I don't believe they are. I think at the very least, this should be a 70-30 split, in my opinion, at the very least. At the very least, I think Dillian Whyte should get 30% here, in my opinion. And anything less than that, I do believe it's a lowball offer. But they are going to lowball him because they're not going to go out of their way to do him any favors. Tyson Fury is in a position of power. Why should he relinquish that position of power? No other fighter in his position has relinquished that position of power in the past. And I don't think any fighter in that position of power will relinquish it in the future. So at the end of the day, as it stands right now, Tyson Fury's doing what any fighter would do in his position. Dillian Whyte, I don't really can't hate what he's doing either, but at some point you're going to have to budge. I don't think you're going to get 10 million. Has Dillian Whyte ever gotten a $10 million guarantee in any of his fights before? What's the largest guarantee Dillian Whyte's ever got before? Right? Has he ever gotten more than a $5.5 million guarantee? Right? Has he ever gotten more than that? So that's another thing the arbitrator is going to look at. They're going to look at his past purse history. And they're going to look at that and say, well, this is what he's made. And this is what Tyson Fury's made. Tyson Fury, has, when it's all said and done, has made 5 to 6 times more per fight in his last couple fights than what Dillian Whyte has made. Right? So that's going to factor in their decision-making process. Right? So at the end of the day, I just don't think Dillian Whyte is going to get what he wants here. I just don't think he's going to get what he wants here. Right? Let's take a look at what Tyson Fury made his last fight versus Deontay Wilder. Right? Tyson Fury, purse for the Wilder 3. So it's been reported that Tyson Fury got 30 million for his last fight. All right. I don't know. Again, it's hard to determine how accurate these reports are because they're all over the place, right? But let's look at the guarantees. So Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, 3 purse payouts confirmed, right? In the second fight, it was reported that both Fury and Wilder made about 25 million each. Okay? So the guarantees for the third fight, I guess Tyson Fury for the third fight was guaranteed $10 million. Okay? And Deontay Wilder was guaranteed $8 million. Right? So again, you have to factor in the pay-per-view back end revenue. All right. So 10 million guarantee, which is double, almost double with his guarantee was double of what Dillian Whyte got in his fight. But once again, his guarantee was smaller because he was fighting Deontay Wilder, who was once again a big name himself. So, they had to go 60-40 according to the contract. So that's why Deontay Wilder got that 8 million, because when the contracts were drawn up, Deontay Wilder was champion at the time, and it was determined that the winner would get 60 and the loser would get 40. So he had no choice but to go 60-40 with Deontay Wilder in that situation. So if that wasn't the case, I'm sure he would have gotten more than 10 million guarantees. So you got $10 million guarantee, right, to Dillian Whyte. So he got double the guarantee that Dillian Whyte got for his last fight. But let's factor in the pay-per-view revenue. So Wilder, Fury, 3 pay-per-view buys. So it did 600,000 pay-per-view buys in the United States, and it did 300,000 buys overseas. So 600,000 times $80, $48 million, right? Times 40%, which gets taken off the top. So that's 19.2, right? So 48 million. Subtract 19.2. It's $28 million left, right? Times 60%. So that's 17,280,000 plus his $10 million guarantee. So that's $27,280,000, right? So let's take a look at the UK. So that's 27,280. So 300,000 times $38, right? That's another 11.4. I don't know how they work it out over in the UK. I wish someone could help me out, but let's just say, for all intents and purposes, they split six. They get 60% of that. So 6,840,000, right? Times 0.60%. That's another 4 million off the top. So Tyson Fury, with all the pay-per-view revenue factored in, got 31 million for his last fight. And what did Dillian Whyte get for his last fight? 5.5 million. So once again, if you do the math, Tyson Fury is getting paid 6 times the amount of money than Dillian Whyte is getting, right? He's getting 6 times the amount. He's making 31 million, right? He made 31 million for his last fight, right? And Dillian Whyte got 5.5. Who's in the position of power here, guys? And I hate being the money guy and the accountant guy, the fanager, so to speak. But Tyson Fury got $31 million, and Dillian Whyte got $5.5 million. Right? Got $24 million more than what Dillian Whyte got. So how is Dillian Whyte in a position of power here? He's just not. He's just not. He's just not in a position of power here. So I don't see how he can come into this situation and demand $10 million. I just don't. I just don't. And ultimately, with his share of the pay-per-view revenue, he would get $10 million for this fight, and probably even more, right? If you factor in the back-end money. So the question is this going to be about money for Dillian Whyte, or is this going to be about legacy? How bad? Like Tyson Fury's already been world heavyweight champion twice, right? Tyson Fury's already talked about retirement. He's looking to close it out, right? You can argue that Tyson Fury doesn't really want this fight with Whyte. You can argue that. There's no motivation for this fight. What incentive is there to fight Dillian Whyte when he can make more money fighting the winner of Usyk versus Joshua? Dillian Whyte can't make more money fighting the winner versus Usyk versus Joshua because, once again, it's not as big. I don't think it would be as, if Joshua were to win, then a fight with Dillian Whyte would be big. But once again, Joshua is not going to do Dillian Whyte any favors because he didn't do him any favors back in 2019. So he'd be back where he started with Joshua. If Usyk wins, it won't be as big a fight as Whyte versus Fury. So again, like Whyte has no leverage here, but he's acting like he does. He's acting like he does. You know? And then people are expecting Fury to like care about being champion when he didn't care about being champion before. He willingly walked away from the sport. He willingly vacated an IBF title, allowed himself to be stripped. He doesn't care about the belts. At this point, it's about the money for him. Whether he says before he doesn't care about the money, but at the end of the day, what else is there to fight for Fury? His legacy is already set. He's going in the Hall of Fame. He's the best heavyweight of his era, in a lot of people's opinion, right? If he were to retire tomorrow, he would be thought of as the best heavyweight in his era because, once again, Joshua lost twice already. I know styles make fights, whatever. You can't do the triangle theory, but Joshua already lost already, right? Twice. And I think he'll probably lose a third time against Usyk. So at the end of the day, Fury will go down as the best heavyweight in his era. He'll be a 2-time heavyweight champion. He's been part of, arguably, in some people's opinion, this is just some people's opinion, the best heavyweight fight of all time, right? He's had a storied career. What else is there for Fury? He doesn't need a Dillian Whyte fight to secure his legacy, right? But once again, Dillian Whyte will be known as that little engine that almost could, because this will be a second time that he turned down. If he were to turn the fight down, this will be a second time that he's priced himself out of a heavyweight title fight, right? Anyone who's the A side is not going to go out of their way to do Dillian Whyte any favors. Does Joshua need Dillian Whyte? Does Usyk, if Usyk were to win, does he need Dillian Whyte? It depends. Usyk would fight Dillian Whyte without question. He would definitely fight Dillian Whyte if Dillian Whyte was elevated to WBC champion. I think though that would be the easiest fight to make, in my opinion. But do I think that Usyk is going to go out of, like, Usyk's promoter is going to go out of their way to give Dillian Whyte the percentage he wants? No, because once again, position of power. That's the key takeaway here. If we're going to be honest, the key takeaway here is let's look at history. Let's look at all the fighters that were in Fury's position, right? Let's look at all of the fighters that were in Fury's position. Did they do their opponents any favors? Did they go out of their way when they were the significant A side to do their fighters, right? To do their fighters any favors? If you were Tyson Fury, would you go out of your way to do Dillian Whyte any favors? If you knew you could get 80%, right? And then you had a sanctioning body backing you up, right? Saying, yeah, we've determined that this is going to go 80-20, right? If you knew you had that leverage, would you not use it? I would use it. I would use it. Fury's already told you he could give two fucks about the title. He's already allowed himself to be stripped before. And with or without the title, people still are interested in Tyson Fury. He still has a following. Ask yourself this question. If you're a consumer, right? Would you still buy Fury versus Usyk or Fury versus Joshua if Tyson Fury did not have the WBC title? Let's do a poll in chat. Would you still buy it? That's what you have to ask yourself. We'll do the poll. Let's do the poll. Would you still buy Fury versus Whyte? Excuse me, Fury versus Joshua or Usyk without the WBC title on the line? And I'm curious to see what you guys say here, because I would still watch it. Now, I wouldn't be happy about, again, I don't want Tyson Fury to vacate this WBC title, but I'm a realist. I know he doesn't give a shit about the belts. He doesn't. He could give two fucks about the belts, just like Floyd Mayweather when he fought Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley was a WBA welterweight champion. Said, fuck it. I'm not paying the sanction fee. I'll fight him without the belt. Fight still did 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. Floyd Mayweather still made $40 million with or without the belt. And he saved himself a sanctioning fee. So at the end of the day, we got to look at the reality of the situation. And we can't be hypocritical here. We can't sit there and say, well, Canelo Alvarez, when he was negotiating with Caleb Plant, right? And Caleb Plant was the full IBF super middleweight champion. He wasn't an interim champion, right? He wasn't an interim champion, right? He wasn't. And you could argue that Canelo is a bigger name than Tyson Fury. I would say maybe he is. Probably, I would say he is. Right now, then you could say, well, well, didn't Caleb Plant get $10 million? Yeah, he did get $10 million. But you know why he got $10 million? Because PBC co-promoted the event with Canelo. They paid him. They paid him. So if Hearn wants to pay Dillian Whyte $10 million, that's up to Hearn if he were to win the purse bid, right? Canelo still got $40 million guarantee. That's without the pay-per-view revenue. So let's take a look at the potential earnings for Canelo Alvarez, and let's look at the split. Let's look at the split. And I know people are going to say, well, Caleb Plant can't draw like Dillian Whyte. Again, if Fury were to fight Usyk or Joshua in the UK, with or without the title, the fight would draw. They could sell out a 90,000 seat stadium. My opinion. It's my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. So let's take a look at Canelo. Let's look at the split for Canelo Plant pay-per-view split. See if we can get some information on this. Because I can't remember what the split was here. So I'm going to try and see if I can find it out. Trying to find this out. Curious to see what the splits here. Yeah, I'm trying to find this pay-per-view split here, which is very hard for me to do. Okay, yeah, it's very hard to find what the split was. For this fight. Yeah. What was the pay-per-view split for Canelo Plant? But I just find it interesting how everyone was defending Canelo for playing hardball with Plant, but they're not defending Fury here. So because if you're going to say Canelo had his right to utilize his leverage, then why are you not going to criticize Canelo for being the A side and using that? So that's interesting. But if anyone can find out what the split was, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, so I don't know what the split was, but they did 800,000 pay-per-view buys, so it is what it is. But that's the thing, guys. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about this situation. You tell me any fighter who has leverage that hasn't used it and won't use it in the sport of boxing. Let me see what this poll is now. Well, 83% said they would still buy it. 17% said no. Yeah, sorry about that. I couldn't find the actual split. But let's just say, for all intensive purposes, let's look. Let's just look here. Right? So say they went 60-40, Canelo and Plant, right? And once again, the reason why Plant got paid so much is because PBC gave it to him. They gave it to him. So 800,000 times the 80, that's 64 million times 60%. So that's 3840. So let's just times that. Let's just say Canelo got 60. So that's 23 million plus 40 million. That's $63 million, right? That's 63 million. So Canelo could have earned $63 million for that Plant fight, possibly, right? So let's see what Plant got there. So time could have gotten, if he was to get 40% plus his 10 million. So Plant could have done all right. He could have gotten upwards of 30, 35 million if it was a 40% split, right? So once again, Canelo used his position of power. Canelo used his position of power. And we don't know how much Plant got. I'm just being conservative here. But it could be argued that Canelo, once again, he got 5 times more than what Plant got. So it's nothing new, guys. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. Troy, what's up, brother? How you doing? Happy New Year, my friend.
Yeah, happy New Year's Eve. What's going on with you?
Just looking at this situation and trying to be objective here.
Trying to
And
be?
yeah, I'm trying to be objective here.
Well, that's your job. You're a content creator, right? Be objective.
100%. But people are already playing the blame game here. But let's look at when Joshua and Dillian Whyte were sitting down and negotiating. And I just want to get your opinion on this because, again, I mean, everyone has a right to their own
Yeah,
opinion. I'm not
I
gonna.
gave it over and over, but okay, I'll give it to you again.
But let me break it down first, right? And I don't know if you came on early enough, but you may not have
Excuse
you
me.
may not have come on. So this is my stance on the whole thing. I think 80-20 is a little bit fucked up. I think it should be 70-30 at least, at the very least, right? Now, the WBC says that an interim champ could get up to, not guaranteed, up to 45%, right? And I don't fault Dillian Whyte for trying to shoot for that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You try to, you reach for the moon, and if you miss it on the way down, you catch a few stars. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But let's look at history. Did Joshua give Dillian Whyte more than what Fury's off, or than what did Joshua and Matchroom give Dillian Whyte more than what Fury and Top Rank are offering him? No. Once again, Joshua has used his leverage, and Eddie Hearn has used his leverage in the past, just like Top Rank and Tyson Fury is trying to do, and just like any fighter in that position has done in the past too. When you look at percentage splits, so would Joshua give Dillian Whyte a $10 million guarantee if they were to fight? I don't think so. And he hasn't. He offered him the same 5.5 million that Top Rank is offering him, right? So that's number one. Number two, if Tyson Fury allows himself to be stripped of this title, right? If Eddie Hearn were to win the purse bids, and say it gets determined that uh, the arbitrator says in March that okay, we're gonna do it 70-30 split. And then Tyson Fury says, "No, I don't want to give it more than 20%. I'm going to vacate the title." Then I would blame Fury in that situation. But if Dillian Whyte is hell bent on that 45% and he's hell bent on that $10 million guarantee, and say Eddie Hearn doesn't want to give him that $10 million guarantee, because I think Eddie Hearn's going to win the purse, but that's just my opinion. I'm being hypothetical here. But say Dillian Whyte is not happy with Eddie Hearn's proposal financially for the fight, and he decides, I'm not going to fight Fury unless I get my $10 million guarantee and unless I get 40%. Then I would blame him. But as it stands right now, everyone's blaming Fury, and I get that, because Fury's not a reliable champion. He's allowed himself to be vacated titles before. But once again, Dillian Whyte's also priced himself out of heavyweight title fights before. So what is your take on this whole thing? Right now, I'm willing to let the process play out. And it looks like Dillian Whyte's playing hardball, and so is Tyson Fury, which is what both sides should do. But we can't ignore the history of Dillian Whyte, as well as ignore the history of Tyson Fury. Both guys can be criticized, not just one. I think it's fair to criticize both in this situation, not just one. Go ahead.
All right, well, we should start from the top. You can't compare Joshua to Fury simply on this level. Joshua is a brand. He could fight with anybody and make money. Fury actually needs somebody like a White. And you can't tell me anybody else that's out there that equals White, where he could make the same amount of money fighting him right now. Whatever heavyweight is out there for him to fight.
Outside of Usyk or Joshua.
He's not. No, you can't. Don't even mention him, because that fight is never going to happen, because he's contracted like the other boy.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I agree with that. Outside of
I'm talking about real fights. Like what real fights can he get right now that'll equal out to what he could make with White?
Well,
in the UK.
Probably if he was to fight Chisora, he could get something comparable, because
No.
Chisora draws out there for whatever reason, whether he wins or loses.
But he's losing. He just lost, and he's not going to be fighting anytime soon. So that's off the table as well. Chisora, Usyk, Joshua, all off the table. Now, who else is there out there that equals out to White?
If you take Chisora off the table, then
he just fought. I mean, no, realistically now we're speaking, because he just fought. So
yeah, but he would fight in April. He would fight in April again if they offered him the Fury fight.
Yeah, but he doesn't equal out to White. He's not winning.
I disagree. I think it's comparable.
No, it's not. Is it comparable? But it's not. He can't make the same amount. He won't draw the same amount with Chisora, because
that's debatable. That's debatable.
No. Here's why, and here's why. You have two facts. I have two facts to beat me up. He beat him twice already. So what's the point of fighting? Those are the two facts you can't dispute. So a third time is going to change.
You know why Tyson Fury would make more fighting Chisora than he would make fighting Dillian Whyte, in my opinion? Because Chisora would definitely take 20%. Whyte would, Whyte.
Now back to that, right? Whyte, I don't believe he's being greedy. You said something when you were speaking that I paid attention to.
Sure.
You said that the WBC pays whatever champions, the interim or whatever champions, up to 45%.
Up to, so, not guaranteed, but up to.
Right. But so he's not asking for anything more than what they have done before. So why? And he's an interim champion, right? So why don't they just pay him?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Do you think the winner of Joshua Usyk, if they were to fight Dillian Whyte after their fight, right? Do you think they would give Dillian Whyte 45%? Yes or no?
If it's Joshua, no. If it's Usyk, yes, because he has no audience.
You think Usyk, if he was to beat Joshua a second time, you don't think he could go back to the Ukraine, and you don't think that he could sell out a stadium, and you don't think he could do a ton of pay-per-view buys over in Europe? And I'm
going on fact. Has he done it yet? So I'm going to say no. Until I actually factually see it, I'm going to say no.
Okay,
I'm going to say no.
so you don't think Usyk?
No.
So you don't think Usyk?
No.
Okay, but let's be hypothetical. If he were to beat Joshua a second time, you don't think that that would add leverage to him and
Where's
add
the
to his
second fight going to be?
in the UK?
Right. Now, thank you very much. If he was that big right now, I mean, because the fact is he beat Joshua, so why doesn't he fight him right now in his home country?
He could if he wanted to.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so why isn't he?
I don't think he cares right now. I think he's focused on his legacy. I honestly believe he's not focused so much on as much on the money
You
as
can
the other
believe
guys
that if
are.
you want to. You
And
could
I'll tell
believe
you,
that.
and I'll
Mhm.
tell you why. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because behavior is proof.
Behavior is
He's
proof.
yeah, behavior is proof. If you look at Usyk's last 9 fights, right? Even as champion, even as being the A side, he still has gone in his opponent's backyard. So he doesn't care about being the A side. He just believes in his ability. He likes the challenge of going into someone's backyard and proving that he can win away from home.
Hmm. Well,
So behavior is proof. Behavior is
let me
proof.
say let me say this. That sounds wonderful, like the sun coming up. But I'm gonna tell you the truth of
All you
the
gotta do is
fact.
look at his box rec. Let's
Listen,
look at his
listen.
box rec.
No, no, no. Let me finish. Let me finish.
I'm gonna let
The
you finish, but I'm
greatest of
gonna
the
pull up his box rec too.
you go ahead. The greatest of the great fighters will tell you, I do this with all my passion and I love doing it, but I want to get paid. I want to get paid. I want to get paid my worth. I've earned it and so forth. Nobody walks in there and said, you know what? I'm doing this just for the glory. I'm okay with whatever they give me. That's an absolute fantasy and a lie.
I agree with that. I agree with that to a
Okay?
point. I agree with that to a point. But
Nobody
let's
does this and
but
then
let's
doesn't think
look
about the money.
let's look
Nobody.
at let's look at all of these fights.
You can look at all of them. It don't matter. It doesn't. It won't prove my point. Let me just stay on point with
Who's
you
a
because I
who's
don't
a
want to go.
bigger who's a bigger name? Well,
Okay,
hold on.
listen.
Hold on. Let
Okay.
me ask you this question. Who's a bigger name? Alexander Usyk or Michael Hunter?
Come on, man. That's easy. Usyk. Nobody
So
knows who
why so
Hunter is.
why did Usyk fight Michael Hunter in Maryland and make a title defense in Maryland? Did he have to go to Maryland to fight Michael Hunter?
I don't know I don't have the answers for. I mean, was he a mandatory? I don't know,
It wasn't a
and that's
mandatory, but
going on.
did he have to fight him there?
Okay, listen. I don't know. You're asking the wrong person, but you're going off point from White and Fury here because that's what we're talking about. We're really
Of
not talking about
course.
Usyk and
But
all of that.
but
You're
again,
taking it someplace
you
else.
made a statement that fighters want, care about the money. And I'm not saying that Usyk doesn't care about the money, but he's at the point now where he's happy making millions of dollars.
Let's take it back.
He's not looking to you know
Let's take
have
it back to the
have
beginning.
he's not
Okay.
looking to have everything in his favor because he believes he can win anywhere is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
That's just
And
my opinion. And I think
okay, well,
behavior is proof.
that's great. I don't see anything in his behavior that tells me that he won't. If he loves it so much, why is he taking a paycheck?
Why would he not take a paycheck?
Okay, thank you. That's
All
my
I'm telling
point.
you is he
That's
doesn't
my point.
care.
Now,
He
can we
doesn't
get back to
care.
White and
He
Fury?
doesn't care where he fights. That's what I'm trying to tell you. These other
That's
guys do.
great. That's great, but he's not
Is
the top
that
of
is
the
that fair?
discussion.
Is that a fair statement that his behavior is
I
shown?
I don't know because I don't
You
know his
have to. I
behavior.
mean, again,
I don't know. I don't follow him. I couldn't tell you his
well, you
behavior.
should
I
follow him
really don't know.
because he's the heavyweight
Why?
champion of the world.
He's not my cup of tea.
All right,
He's not. It's his style. It's not my cup of
all right.
tea.
You don't
So
like him, okay? But
I don't like
again,
his style. His style.
he's fought his last 9 fights in his opponent's
Right.
backyard. So behavior is
Mm,
proof. He does
that's
not care. He does not care where he fights.
That's
Behavior is
actually
proof.
nothing new to boxing, man.
Yes, it
No.
is. Yes,
Glenn
it is.
Johnson. You ever heard of a
Name
fighter named
another.
Glenn Johnson? Hold on. You
Yes.
ever heard of a fighter called Glenn Johnson,
Yes.
aka the Road Warrior?
Yes.
Again, nothing new to boxing. You ever heard of a guy called Mike McCullum? He went to different countries and all over the place to fight. So it's
Yes.
nothing new.
Not to the extent that
Nothing
Usyk
new.
has done it. Not to the extent
That's
that Usyk has done
absolutely not true. I just told you the man was called the Road Warrior. What does
it.
that
Okay.
mean to you? He never fought at home.
Has
He
Mike
rarely
McCallum
fought at home.
Now,
I'm
let me
talking about
ask,
Glenn Johnson, aka the Road Warrior.
has
He
Mike
was ready to
McCallum,
ready
is
to go.
Mike McCallum a two-time undisputed champion?
Holy, first of all,
Has Mike
Usyk is
McCallum ever been on the pound for pound list? Has Mike McCallum
hell
ever
yeah.
been in a
Okay,
position?
listen. Oh
Hold on,
my
let me
God, we going
finish.
all
Let me
over the place,
finish.
man.
Let me finish
Please
because
do, please do, please
you're a
do.
contrarian. You're a contrarian. You're
Yes,
gonna
I am when it
right
comes to that.
now. Has Mike McCallum ever had the status of Alexander Usyk? Did he win a gold medal in the Olympics? Has he ever been an undisputed champion twice? Has he ever been the man in his division? No. He's never
You
had
finished
he
because
had no
you
choice. He had
are
no
you
choice,
finished
but he
because
had
you
no
putting out
choice. But
false information.
let me
You
finish.
putting out false
He had
information.
no choice. He had no choice but to go on the road because he's never
No,
been.
that's not true.
He's hardly ever been the A side. It's just
You
facts.
finished? Are
Go
you
ahead.
finished? Because you
No,
just put out false information.
what's false?
Usyk
What's
is not a
false?
two-time undisputed anything.
Yes, he is.
Where?
Oh, one time. I apologize.
Yeah, thank you.
I
False
apologize.
information. Number one,
One time,
and num and
one
number
time.
two,
I
number
retracted.
two,
I retracted.
number two, number two. Mike is in the Hall of Fame. Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, uh, 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 James Toney. Everybody spoke
Avoided
this
him.
man's name. Hold on, James Toney fought him twice. Leonard said risk reward, he wasn't worth it. Hagler said risk reward, he wasn't worth it.
I agree.
Emmanuel Stewart said the same thing. Tommy actually would have fought him, but Emmanuel Emmanuel was like no. And as far as Mike McCollum's status, he's he's a galaxy. He's an entire universe.
Who's a better fighter? Who's a better
Usyk is a
fighter?
city block at best.
Who's a better
He's a
fighter?
city block at
Who's a
best.
better fighter? Mike
Compared to
McCallum? Who's
Mike
a better
McCollum.
fighter? No
Mike
way.
McCollum, because I
No
can
way.
rattle off all the great fighters
No
he's
way.
fought.
I love
Yes,
Mike
are
McCallum.
you out of your mind? Or are you playing with me?
Let's do a
Listen to
poll.
me.
Let's do a poll.
Mike
Who's a better
McCollum's in the
fighter?
Hall of Fame,
Let's do
hasn't
it.
fought in years.
So you don't think
Just
Usyk?
hold on, man,
Let's
because you
do a
keep cutting
poll.
me off. Hold on,
You getting
and
mad
every
now? You
time you
getting
cut me
mad now
off, it
because
doesn't make.
you losing the argument. You
Now,
getting mad.
this losing what, man? I didn't call up here to
You
lose
getting
anything.
mad. You getting mad, bro.
No, I'm not getting mad. I'm simply trying to make a point. You comparing Usyk to Mike McCollum
Yep.
is like you comparing, amateur to someone who's pretty much a Hall of Famer. The dude, nobody knows who Usyk is. Mike
Doesn't
McCollum
matter.
is an established legend in the sport. Usyk will never touch the status of Mike McCollum. Are you out of your rabbit mind, man? Seriously.
Usyk is a unified heavyweight,
Usyk is a
unified
city block.
cruiserweight champion. He's a unified
Ooh,
cruiserweight champion.
ooh,
He beat Anthony Joshua. Arguably,
ooh,
he could be called the best
ooh.
heavyweight in the world.
Yeah,
All
Anthony
right.
Joshua's been beat before.
So Mike McCallum, look, how many losses does Mike McCallum has? He has 5
He
losses.
got quite a few, but he fought for many years. I could rattle off
5
all the
losses.
Hall of Fame. I could rattle off all the Hall of Famers he's fought. All of them. Notice I said Hall of Famers. That man, that man, that man put the 154-pound weight limit on the map. That man
Great
made.
fighter. Great
Let me
fighter.
finish. Let me finish.
Great fighter.
That man made body punching an art. That man is James Toney's toughest fight. That's out of James Toney's mouth. That man was the first man to defeat and stop Julian Jackson. You understand what I'm saying? That man beat Soon Boom Calloway. That man beat Stevie Collins. That man moved up and beat Harding at 175 pounds. That man has done it all and then some, which is why he's a legend in the sport. Usyk cannot compare to him whatsoever. He's a t-shirt that someone's cleaning their car with right now compared to Mike McCollum. That's what Usyk is when you compare him to Mike McCollum. You can't compare him to Mike McCollum because he has no career like Mike McCollum.
Let's do the poll.
Okay? You could put a poll in there, and any fool, because there's a lot of fools that don't know boxing. There's a lot of fools that don't know boxing. So go ahead and put the poll in there. It won't change the fact that man, Mike McCollum, has accomplished great, great things and is in the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Usyk has beat Joshua. That's his greatest and ultimate win. That's it.
And he was undisputed at cruiserweight.
So was Evander Holyfield. He's not. It seems like he's not the first to do anything. He's not the first undisputed at cruiserweight. Not the first man to beat Joshua. What is he the first at? Thank you very much.
You don't have to be the best. What's better, being
You
the
don't have
best
to be
at
the
something
best.
or being first?
Why are we having this conversation about being the best?
What's better? What's better, doing something first or being the best at doing something? What's more important?
Say that one more time and I'll answer your question.
What's more important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Alexander Bell invented the telephone.
Come on, man. Come on.
Did he make the best telephone?
My man. Say the question.
I
don't need a history lesson.
What is better? You're getting angry. What is better? Being the best at something or being first at something? What is better?
If you were the first at something, obviously you are the best at something.
That's not true.
Really?
That's not true.
Well, in Mike McCollum's case, he was. And in most cases,
that's your opinion.
What is Usyk the best at? What is he the best at?
He was an undisputed champion. He was a gold medalist.
Yeah. So what? So what? He won
titles in cruiserweight and heavyweight.
That's been done before by a much greater man. Go ahead.
Who else has done that?
Holyfield, brother.
David Haye and Holyfield. He's the third person to do it.
He was undisputed. He's
the third person to do it. That's not
there was no other fighter on the face of this earth that was undisputed cruiserweight, undisputed heavyweight. You were lying. There was no other. Listen to me. Just listen. Take a deep breath.
Who else won titles?
Listen to me. Listen.
You're getting mad. Who else won titles at heavyweight and cruiserweight besides David Haye, Usyk, and Holyfield? Who else?
Listen to me.
So you're not gonna answer the question.
I'm going to answer your question.
So you're not going to answer the question.
What I'm saying to you, you could try that. You could try that cutoff nonsense. It's your show. Holyfield's the only man to be undisputed at cruiserweight and heavyweight.
Facts.
Usyk has never done that. The first thing you said out your mouth was Usyk was two-time undisputed.
I misspoke.
No, you didn't misspoke. You told a flat-out lie. You're trying to what you're trying to do is make this man into fine wine when he's cheap beer.
So if I misspoke and I corrected myself, that's a lie.
I corrected you.
And I conceded the correction.
Because you have to bow down to facts.
Well, I have to admit facts. I don't have to bow down. I don't bow down to anything. I'm a man that stands on his own 2 feet. Why do I have to bow down to anything?
Because I chose my words carefully.
So I have to bow down to something? Like I'm lesser than? I'm inferior?
You said it, not me.
Answer the question. So you're telling me I have to bow down to someone's opinion?
Do you feel inadequate?
Never.
Okay, then you just answered.
I'm 52 years old and I look like I'm 40. Why would I have to feel inadequate?
You're 52 years old and you look 52 years old. Yes.
I look 40.
You actually look like Fonzie's cousin.
I wouldn't mind being Fonzie's cousin. Fonzie was how much pussy did Fonzie get?
I don't know. See, you asking me questions that have nothing to do with the topic I called in to speak about, man.
So you don't like. So let's get off of Usyk and go.
I was never on Usyk, but I'm sure that you've been on him many a time.
My favorite fighter in all of boxing is Tyson Fury. I think Tyson Fury beats Usyk, but
That's great. He's not mine.
I respect Usyk's. I respect Usyk's.
I have too many favorite fighters, man. But go ahead.
I love Tyson Fury. So let me ask you this: like, is Tyson Fury doing anything that any other fighter in his position would not do? And Joshua did the same thing to Dillian Whyte. So why?
He's just playing the game that's out there to play, man.
Do you have a problem with? Do you have a problem?
And made the best man win. No, he's just playing the game that's out there to play, and made the best man win. And listen to me. When it comes to numbers, contracts, you brought up the box rec and all that. I don't give a rat's gray ass about that. I give a rat's gray. I watch the fights. I can watch a fight with you and break it down and tell you who's going to win before the fight's over. That's my interest. That's my passion. Everything else is not. It's really not, to be honest with you. Don't give a damn about pay-per-views. I don't give a damn that you're taking home X amount of money. That's not my business. I don't give a damn about your percentage breakdown. I don't give a damn about nothing. I just want to see good fights between supposedly the two top dogs in their weight class. Come on, man.
But we have a problem here, though, Troy.
Really? What is that?
That there's an issue getting this fight off the ground. We're going
Yeah,
to
there's
ar- we're going
no.
to we're going to arbitration, right?
Mhm.
We may be going. Looks like we're going to be going to purse bids on January 11th, and if the purse if there's a is it the WBC is saying it's going to be 80-20 split. That's what they've determined. Now, if Dillian Whyte wants more than that 20%, then and he refuses to fight, then this will be the second time that he refuses a title fight. Is
Something
that
tells me there'll be a compromise and he'll get it because he's been through too much and there's been years on top of years. There was a punk named Wilder who said I'm gonna block you out for 3 years. Sent him a video
bad
to his
move? Yeah,
phone,
I can't
right?
co-sign. I
That
can't
was
co-sign
proof,
that.
100% proof. He never fought him, and he ended his career on his face, right? And then you got this big old bloke over here that promised to fight him, and now I mean, if Tyson Fury was all that, he would have just stepped up and say, "Look, give it to him. I'm going to smash him, and we're going to move on, and I'm become undisputed." That's it. But
But
he,
Joshua didn't do that. Why
yeah.
didn't Joshua do that?
Joshua don't have to do that. Joshua's a brand. He can do whatever he. Joshua loses, and then he comes back and get paid 3 times more than the person who beat him. Can Fury do that?
Probably not. Well, it depends who Fury fights. It
No.
depends who he's fighting.
No, exactly. He needs a partner. Joshua does not. Just like Tyson didn't need one. Who the hell is Peter McNeely? See what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
I
You
agree with
talk
that. I agree with
okay,
that.
yeah, what you talking about is a pool. One's a pool and one's an ocean. You can't compare both of them, man. But at the end of the day, I hope there's a compromise and White gets his pound of flesh because Fury is ready to be sent home. He's ready to be beat. Those 3 fights took a hell of a lot out of both of those men. And let me tell you, when I say he's going to stop Fury if they fight him, I watched the fight over and over in the last one. When Wilder hit him, you had to watch it. His body had ripples going through it like waves in an ocean or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You telling me that he wasn't prepared for that? You fought him twice already. No, his body's breaking down. And then when he got dropped, the camera went to his eyes. He was in shock.
Yeah,
Why are you in shock?
his dad said he got arthritis in both elbows too.
Okay, see now, but why are you in shock when you've tasted this man's power in almost every fight, in all 3 fights? So basically, you should know how to turn, know how to get your body ready. And he took,
In his defense, though,
yeah.
if you look at the knockdown, I don't know if you noticed this. He braced himself like this at the end of it, and
I
if he
saw what
didn't,
he did. The dude's a pro. He's an excellent pro. I saw what he did.
yeah, he braced himself. So he kind of tried to take away some of the blunt of that blow. Just like if people, another thing people, I don't know, you probably picked up on this. Even that 12th round of the first fight, if you notice when he got hit with the right hand, he did roll it a little bit, and he took some of the steam out of that right hand. Even though he got knocked down, it was still a hellacious punch. He rolled it a little bit. So this guy does little subtle things to help himself out in that ring defensively, even when he does get hit. Tyson Fury. So you think White would beat Fury right now? You're picking White.
He stops Fury right now.
You believe? Okay. Hey, listen. If you see something, then you see something. I'm not gonna argue against that. I think Fury stops him. That's just my opinion. But
Okay.
again,
Uh-huh.
my thing is this. White's been in some wars himself. He was in 2 tough fights with Chisora where he got hit a lot, got knocked out by a 40-year-old Povetkin, right? I don't think he looked great against Rivas, right? So White's had an up and down career. He's had some miles on the odometer. Joshua knocked him out too. So White is not the most defensively responsible guy in the world. He gets hit a lot too. So
We hit a lot.
The big thing is here is Fury can fight on the outside as well as the inside. He's more versatile. He's got more ways to win than White does. I think White has to make it a dog of a fight on the inside. But the thing is, Fury can deal with guys on the inside too. But can White deal with Fury on the outside?
Well, yeah,
It's a tough fight style wise for Dillian Whyte, in my opinion.
no, it's not. He's fought taller. He's fought taller guys before. He fought the Viking guy. Not saying they on the same level, but he's fought
He
guys
didn't
that
look good. He
size.
didn't look good against Hellenius, though. He didn't look good against Hellenius.
Of course, but at the end of the day, he
He
won. That was the
struggled.
whole
He
point of
struggled
the
with
fight,
the
right?
size. He
But at the end of
struggled
the day,
against
he won.
Chisora. He was behind. He was
In the
behind.
first fight. In the first fight,
He was behind on the cards on the second fight before he got the knockout.
I didn't see it that way. I see he was just
It
working
was
his
close.
plan.
It was close. It was close.
No, on the cards it was close, but in the ring it really wasn't close because I saw what he was doing. They told him to hold back and let him shoot his shot, let him shoot his load, and then because he really could have took him out in the second round. Realistically, when he hurt him in the second round, he could have taken him out right then and there. But what he was doing at that time was showing his maturity and say, "Well, I'm not going to jump in here and get caught by anything. I'm going to be careful." And then, as the fight went on, he saw that he was slowing down, and that's how he was able to drop that smooth left hook on him and put him to sleep like that. Something no one's ever done to Chisora. Not Tyson Fury in 2 fights, not Klitschko, not Hay. Nobody has knocked that man unconscious except for White. Now, as far as how he would fight Fury, he would walk Fury down because at the end of the day, he would walk Fury down and use his jab and work the body because what he's going to do, he's going to beat up his body on his way in. Fury, every time Wilder jabbed him to the body, what did Fury do? He paused.
Dropped his hands.
He paused. Yes, and he paused. You think he's going to do that against this? And this guy hits a hell of a lot harder because he's a naturally strong guy and he's much bigger than Wilder. Did you see him standing?
I think the advantage that Dillian Whyte has two advantages Dillian Whyte has over Wilder is he's a much better inside fighter, number one. And he's got power in both hands, not just one.
That's what I tell people. He's naturally a powerful person.
He's a heavy hitter. He's a heavy hitter with both hands. My issue with Whyte though is his stamina and his defense.
I think that was
and his conditioning. He comes in heavy a lot too. I don't think he'll come in out of shape for Fury though. There's no way.
I don't think. Okay, well, I don't agree with that all the time. The Parker fight was a short notice fight, right? The Parker fight was a short notice fight. The other fight where he fought the real tall boy, he was coming off of. Yeah, he was in a depression. He was coming off a real tough place. He still won. The fight with Rivas. That was just Rivas is a tough dude because he hit him with shots that would drop other people, but Rivas ate him. I mean, he ate him. So, and he still pulled it out and he won. As far as his weight, for someone his size, I would love to see him coming at 235, 240 at the most, but 235.
Yeah, but
right?
he comes in sometimes at He comes in sometimes at 270, man.
And no. That was once. It wasn't no sometimes.
All right, let's take a look.
He came off the depression. That's when he came off the depression thing, and they were trying to end his career with the whole drug thing. That was one time.
Oh, you're a big Dillian Whyte fan, huh?
I could also give you some trivia right now that is current affairs.
Go ahead. I'll try my best.
Because no, you know what? It ain't even trivia. People like to knock him because he got knocked out by Joshua early, right? Nobody gives him credit for after being knocked out. He went on an 11-fight win streak in 2 years, and he beat a lot of good names. Name me another fighter currently who's fighting that in 2 years fought 11 times or 12.
He's been trying to keep busy. There's no question about that.
Because I don't think the man's Superman. I don't think he's super gifted. But what I do like is that he's determined and he's focused and he's willing to learn. What's the first thing he said to Eddie Hearn once he woke up after the Povetkin fight and they were talking outside?
Give me the rematch, yeah.
Give me the damn rematch. That's it. It didn't take him 2 years and he didn't fire his old school. He don't have a bunch of yes people around him. He had people around him that'll actually know boxing that'll help him grow.
I mean, he came in at about 260 pounds a few times. Uh,
Okay, you said 270. That was that one time when he was
yeah,
depressed.
one time he came in at 271. Another time he came in at 260 a couple
The,
times.
the 260
Uh,
was against who? Parker.
Parker 258 and a half,
Okay, both of them
260
took that fight
against
on short notice. Both. If you want to check
uh
Parker's weight, he was big. He was big for that fight too.
yeah, Povetkin he came in at 247 and a half
You
his
know what I'm
last
saying?
fight.
He was in shape. He hasn't stopped training. He
But
stays
I
in
I
Portland.
think I think a good weight for him, like you said, is probably 235.
Yeah,
I agree with
235,
that.
240 at the most.
I think
At
240
the most.
at the most. 247 still a little bit high for him. So there is some issues
Mhm.
with the conditioning. I think, in my opinion.
How? To me, I think with him is if he could he I don't think it's an issue. I think he takes breaks and then he works himself back into shape and then he just does his routine. But if he stays steady like say a Bernard Hopkins does, then he's not going to get beat.
I'll be honest
He
with
really
you.
isn't.
I would give him a shot, and I possibly would pick him against this version of Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, because Anthony Joshua is fragile right now. I don't know
Yeah,
what's up with him.
I think
Anthony Joshua has the tools to be a whole lot better fighter, and he has the tools to beat White every time they fight if his mind is right. Okay, if Anthony Joshua had the same determination that White has, he would have never lost to Usyk. He would have knocked Usyk the hell out. He would have knocked him out.
one thing
He
about
would,
White, he has that dog in him, that killer instinct. I don't think Joshua has that same level of killer instinct that
and
Dillian
he
White
would have
did.
knocked out Andy Ruiz too, which is why Andy didn't fight him.
Yeah,
Notice that Andy lied and said they didn't offer him the
Yeah,
money.
Andy didn't want that. It seemed like Andy
That's the
turned that fight down. He seemed
that's the
like he turned
same
that
thing
fight
with the
down.
so-called, the same thing with the Cuban guy, the guy that's the boogeyman. Notice he never named.
Luis Ortiz.
Yeah, yeah, you notice his people never name names when they say so many people have ducked him, but they never name one name. They can't tell you one fighter who's ducked him.
Who do you think avoided who in that situation? Because it was reported that Dillian,
Ortiz,
yeah,
Ortiz, and his trainer was on the Boxing Voice years ago breaking it down. He said, "Okay, because they Nesta asked him how much did he send you? How much was the offer from White? Notice the offer from White. They didn't give White an offer, right? So
yeah.
the trainer was like, he sent us to 250, 275,000 or whatever. And we were like, nah, why should we take that? And then you have to ask yourself this: White is now the champion, and at that time, Ortiz had just fought Wilder for 500,000, who is a champion. So why should a non-champion pay you more than a champion? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
So who where else is he going to make $275,000 fighting who? He has no belt. He has no audience.
And then
Where's the fan base?
reportedly Ortiz turned down 7 million to fight Joshua too. They said.
No, he didn't. He can't turn down something he didn't know about. Again, same trainer. That same trainer is family to his manager, right? His
Yeah.
manager never told him. So how do you
Well,
turn down something that?
who
How you turn down something?
Ortiz's manager never told him about the offer?
Right. He didn't know about it. How do you turn down something you don't know about?
Yeah, I don't know. I
He
don't know. I don't know the whole situation.
he actually made the decision to turn it down for them.
So the manager turned down the fight. You're
which is
saying
how you which is how you
without
got Wilder
Luis
Ortiz too.
Ortiz's knowledge. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got you. I
He
got
didn't
you.
know it. You can't you can't blame the fighter for yeah, because it seems like he has no control over his career. He's a backseat driver in his own career.
Yeah, a lot of those PBC guys, they seem like they don't take control of their careers. They allow management to kind of run them.
Let me
You
tell you
know,
what, if my whole plan, if when I was thinking about going pro before I had to deal with whatever I had to deal with, was to never sign with any promoter and to self manage myself. I was never going to tie myself to anybody because I just don't trust nobody like that. And who
yeah.
else could run my career better than me? Because I am my own moneymaker. I
But
am the business.
you definitely would need a lawyer to go over your
I
contracts.
got that. Yeah, I had a lawyer too, and he managed a Hall of Famer by the name of Simon Brown. I was going to use his old lawyer.
I
Yeah.
love Simon Brown. Yeah.
So they
How much were you gonna weigh in at? What were you gonna be, a heavyweight, or are you gonna
I'm a
be?
heavyweight. I was always a heavyweight. I'm only 6 foot, but I was a heavyweight. There's no way that I could shrink down to cruiserweight with my frame. Anytime I tried to go under 200 pounds, like I got down to 185, and 195,
I've done that
and
before too, man. Like
I was so
185
weak.
is 185 is just not sustainable, man. You start
I was so weak, and I mean, I put on 10 more pounds. I got to 195, coming down from 220, and
yeah.
still I felt every punch. But once I got back to 210, 215, I was great.
I think you should be about probably 215 tops.
215, 220 was where I need to stay because
What
I
do you
still look
weigh? What
like
do
a
you weigh
little
now?
one.
What do you weigh now? After
Too
the
much.
holidays,
Too much. Nah,
230,
it's not the
230,
holidays. Nah,
230.
251. 251.
I don't like that weight for you, man. You got to get some of that weight off, man. How old are you?
I'm
40?
trying to. 30.
You're
Now
30?
I'm 2 years younger than you.
You're 50?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless you.
Fit, fine, and 50. All I can tell you, man, is keep your fine cousins away from me. And if you got any fine aunties, you better keep them away from me too.
Yeah, I got you. I got
Hmm.
you. But the thing is, when you get older, carrying that weight when you get older, it's harder when you're younger, obviously, because when you get older, your joints start breaking down on you. Your heart isn't what it once was when you were younger, and that's why like I tried to downsize because I was heavy as a kid. I'm about 196, 197 right now. I want to probably try to get down to. Nah, I kind of like where I'm at right now. I wouldn't mind getting down to 190, but once I get into those 80s, yeah, you're right. You start feeling it, man. But I do a
You
lot of
also,
I do a lot of walking. I try to do a lot of cardio. I do the weights too, but I do a lot of cardio for my try to keep my heart in check.
yeah, and the thing is that we do less physically than we do because okay, I used to walk at least 5 miles a day, 3 days a week. One of those miles was uphill, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's good work right there.
Yeah, it was great at first till and then I made the mistake that Martin Lawrence made. I put on that suit, that sauna suit, and it was
Yes.
98 degrees outside. I went to Gold's Gym, did my thing, and took Zumba class and everything, right?
Yeah.
Then I walked out to the car, got in the car, and by the time I got to my front door, all I remember is I left the key. Well, my key was in the door, and I was flat face down on my face inside my house. But I got good neighbors, so they came and checked on me. I had a heat stroke.
Yeah, that's definitely possible if you do something like that. That's
Yeah,
tough,
do
man.
something that's stupid. Yes, you can
It's
say it's
crazy.
stupid. I'm not
It's
doing it. I
crazy.
mean, that's when I got down to. I told myself I'm gonna get down back to 220. So I was 240. I was
Yeah.
240, and then I was 239. So I said, "Oh, 10 more pounds, 10 more pounds," and then I was like, "What happened to me?" And then
Yeah.
I had a stroke at work because I worked at the casino, and I used
Oh
to run
wow.
up. I used to run up the steps in the back because as employees, you come from the back, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I used to run up the steps, time myself to see how fast I was. Here's the thing: there's no ventilation back there. So you breathing all heavy, and it's 20 steps you're running up every day. Because I used to do 10-hour shifts, so I'll be off on the weekends, right?
Hmm.
So I'm running up these steps 5 days a week, and then one day I'm uh I'm actually helping somebody out. Then I wake up in the hospital.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's me again, just being me.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this, man. Who do you think's gonna win Usyk versus Joshua?
You know what, man? I would love to say Joshua. I would love to say Joshua, but physically, that man has all the tools. I don't know where his head is. I don't know what happened. And it didn't just happen in the Usyk fight. It happened way, way back in the Parker fight. That's when that happened. I don't know what happened to him in the Parker fight. Something happened to him in the Parker fight, and he's never been the same, even though he won. But I was like, what the hell is he doing?
So do
So
you
I can't
think
tell
you
you.
think Dillian White would beat Usyk too?
He would knock him out.
So is Dillian White the best heavyweight in the world right now, in your opinion?
No, he's just the most determined. The best heavyweight doesn't exist.
So you don't
Unless
you don't you don't you don't know right now who the best heavyweight in the world is. It's
the best.
open.
I
It's
mean,
open to
they don't
debate
really
still.
separate themselves from each other. They don't separate themselves from each other. They really don't.
But if you
People,
had to pick one guy that you think could beat everybody style wise, who would that guy be?
Right now, I'm sticking with White because of
You like
his
so you like White.
determination.
You like White as a fighter. You like his you like not only his ability, but you just like his mental
He,
approach to the game.
he's gonna keep
You like
coming.
that.
He's gonna keep coming, and the fact now that he's calmer and he's patient, and if you he's training like crazy. He doesn't. He loves Portugal for some reason because that's where he is.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So I'm sticking with him, not because he has the best skill, because that's Joshua. Joshua's the most skilled out of
So
all
you
of them.
think Joshua is the most skilled heavyweight? You think Joshua has more
Yeah.
skill than you think he's more skilled than Fury?
Yes. Listen
So
to me.
you're not really sold on Fury at all.
No, because I know smoke and mirrors when I see it. He looks great. Okay, listen to me. The two times I watched him, I've seen him fight against Cunningham. Cunningham dropped him. And people say, well, he beat Cunningham up after that. No, he didn't. He leaned on him. He leaned. He won that fight for someone that's 6'8", 6'9". He did not beat that 6'2" man. He actually won that fight in the most cheapest of ways. He leaned on him, leaned on him, leaned on him. Then when the man had no legs, had no stamina, he knocked him over. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a cheap way for you 6'9", and you had to cheap your way to a win with a guy that's 6'2", that's a former cruiserweight fighter. I knew exactly who he was back then. Right? Then you fast
Mm-hmm.
forward to Chisora. He looked great as a southpaw now. I'm gonna get he looked great fighting Chisora as a southpaw, right? Pretty too. But then you fast forward to Wilder here, and I had Wilder beating him because he just wasn't ready to me personally. He'd been out for 2 years and all of that. But lo and behold, his 60% was good enough to beat Wilder's 100% in that fight, right?
Yeah.
He even got up from Wilder's punch. Second fight, when he was fully recovered and in better shape, and he had more confidence this time because this guy here, the Stewart guy, told him, "Listen, man, you don't have to do all that herky jerky stuff." Because I don't think that was him at all that herky jerky stuff. That was his trainer telling him to be careful. This dude is not careful. He's reckless. He's really just one of them happy-go-lucky type guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you get with a guy that tells you, you can knock this guy out, man. Just look, use them skills you have, those eyes and those boxing skills, and just move forward on him. And he's like, that's going to work. Then they watch film and they see this and that. He comes in and he goes right into it. Wilder comes out, throws 3 rights. He hits him with 2 of them. And lo and behold, Tyson's still standing upright. Oh, boy. So then the fight goes on, down goes Wilder. Fight goes on, down goes Wilder. Fight goes on, Mark Breland throws in a towel. Second fight, Wilder, he lifting all these weights and he doing this and he's not talking and you know, Fury comes in
The third
and he
fight you're
beats
talking
him.
about, not the
Third
second fight.
fight, third
Yeah.
fight. And Wilder was actually hesitant to move forward against Fury. Isn't that funny? The
Yeah.
power puncher was hesitant to move forward against a guy he called feather punch. Fury is not a big puncher. He's a big puncher against Wilder. People people have short-term memory loss. Wilder got knocked out in the Olympics, didn't He's an
I don't
amateur,
think he
right?
got knocked out in the Olympics, but he's been knocked out a couple of times in the
No, no, trust me.
in amateurs.
He got put down hard by whoever this boy here is. Was it Herbovic? I don't remember. Then he got dropped twice as a pro by 2 unknowns, and Al Heyman and the PBC quickly erased that from existence. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing with his brother's first knockout. That was erased from existence. The only reason why we saw the second knockout because it was on TV. Right?
Yeah.
So you should be able to find it. He does not take, and if you look, and it's not me, look at Wilder's career and name me a puncher that he's fought. Please do not say Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz is not a puncher because you can't tell me anybody he's
Yeah,
knocked out with
you can argue
one punch.
that he's never faced a big puncher. Like let's take a look at the big punchers out there that he could have fought but for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, but the Povetkin fight wasn't his fault, but they never did schedule the rematch.
Mm, that was his
Povetkin,
people's fault. That was his
yeah,
people's fault because once he got cleared, they could have made that fight.
Joshua is a puncher. White's a puncher. Um,
Chisora.
Chisora is a puncher, I would think. And who
Hay
else?
Hay was out there at the
And
time he was
Povetkin.
coming up.
Yeah, yeah,
And now look, now okay, I'm glad you brought up Derek Chisora. Well, no, I did, but if you look at it, people always fault him for all those losses he had, right?
yeah,
Do you know he came out? I think he came out a year or so before Wilder, and all those fights that Wilder should have took, he went that path. He fought the Klitschko's. He fought the Hayes. He fought the who else did he? What I say? Klitschko, Hay,
Oh
Fury,
yeah, yeah. Joshua
and
Joshua fought Klitschko too. Klitschko's a
no,
puncher.
no. I'm talking about Derek Chisora.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, again, he fought
Yeah,
the Vitaly Klitschko, so he's a puncher. He's a
he
puncher
he
too.
took he fought no, but what I'm saying is he fought all the guys that Wilder coulda, shoulda, woulda fight, but it was always an excuse for him not to fight them, right? He
Yeah,
took those fights, and all
true.
they did for him was made him a better fighter. Yeah, they gave him losses, but his losses are bigger than Wilder's wins.
Yeah, that could be argued.
That and no argument. His his law his losses are bigger than Wilder's wins.
Yeah, yeah.
Wilder
You know what? I would have to agree with that statement. I would
Wilder's
have to
biggest
agree with
win
that
to this
statement.
day is Ortiz. And who
Yeah,
the hell is Ortiz? Who is he, man?
I would
Who is
pick
he?
White. I would pick White to beat Ortiz right now.
Let me tell you something.
Outside of, I hate to say this because I like Deontay Wilder, but outside of Tyson Fury, I don't I don't think there's any standout names on that resume, to be honest.
You know what? And people have to separate their feelings from the fighter because I
Yeah,
like White, but when he gets beat and carrying on, I'm honest enough to say, okay, I see what happened. When he got knocked out by Povetkin, that was just a beautiful setup. I don't think there's another heavyweight out there that could do that. When he got knocked out by Joshua, that was he was exhausted, and
yeah,
so
it's
that,
hard.
that was
It's
that was
hard.
his fault. Yeah, but
I really would have been intrigued by the rematch.
I would love to see. And at the time, it was the biggest fight because Wilder had opted out. So, but the fact is, I think he offered him the same money he just made against Derek Chisora, and White wasn't having it. It's like, I just fought Derek for that money, Anthony. I mean, come on, man. At least give me 3, 4 million more than that. Be fair. He
No,
wasn't trying to fight him.
I
But let
got you.
me let me say this. That then if you want me to jump off, I'll jump off. Let me
Yeah, I'm
say
gonna
this,
probably
right?
jump off in a couple of minutes too, because
Right.
we covered a lot of stuff here, man.
Yeah. Wilder had all the opportunities that old boy had. Josh. The difference is that Joshua's people believed in him. The money behind it. He could have had to fight.
You're
Could
breaking
have,
up a little bit. I don't know if you could fix your internet a little bit. You're breaking up. I don't know if you're on the phone or what.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you better now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. No. No. What I said was Wilder had the same opportunities that Joshua had. The only difference is that Joshua's people actually the plan and they actually believed in Joshua.
I agree with that.
Over
I think
over
I
here.
think
Mhm.
I think Joshua. You can make an argument. Joshua's got a better resume than Wilder. You can make it. You can make that argument.
Of course he does. He's a better resume than Fury too. Yeah, of course he
Yeah,
does. But
I mean you can make that argument. I think it's fair to make the argument.
no. I mean, because there's no argument. Who did Fury beat? His whole career is based off Wilder and Klitschko. That's it. Who else?
Yeah, I mean he got 2 wins over Chisora. Those are good. Those are good wins. You
No, but
know,
nobody mentions that because Chisora was nothing but a journeyman back then. He
I
wasn't
mean
Chisora.
when he beat Chisora the first time, they were both. I think they were both undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I don't know, but I doubt that. I
Let
don't
me
know,
double.
but still,
Let me see if I can fact check that.
yeah, but still, he wasn't a champion, and he wasn't a person
I
of
could be
interest.
wrong, but let me fact check that. I
Yeah, you
can't
do
remember
that.
off the top of my head.
Yeah, so and then I'm going back to sleep. Well, go to sleep. Period. I didn't sleep at all.
Oh, you didn't sleep? What do you work
No,
nights?
man. No, I just don't sleep sometimes. I'll spot sleep for an hour and then I'm up for the rest of the night.
All right,
I don't know
so
what that is.
I think Derek Chisora when they first fought back in 2011. Let me double check that. Yeah, they were both 14-0 when they fought the first time.
They were both nobodies.
They were both 14-0. Chisora was 27. Fury was 22.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they
so
were
that
both
was
they were both nobodies too. So it doesn't matter.
well. They
But
were prospects basically at that time in the UK.
in the UK,
Yeah, they weren't known worldwide though. No,
no, they weren't.
they
But
weren't
all
known
right,
over here. All right, man. Be good. Have a happy New Year, man. I'll talk to you.
yeah, yeah. You have a good day, man. Hey, and I'm gonna tell you this before I jump off here: Dillian White will be undisputed, and Chisora will be forgotten. T-shirt. He's a T-shirt.
All right, we'll we'll see, man. If that happens, he'll be a genius, man, and I'll be the first to give him credit if Dillian Whyte ends up becoming undisputed in 2022, which I do not think it will happen. But that's all I got for now, guys. Thank you so much. I wish everybody Happy New Year. This is going to be no ringside reporter this Sunday. Eric has some prior engagements. We'll probably do a show on Monday. There's no fights coming up really, except for that pay-per-view this Saturday, Ortiz versus Charles Martin. I'm curious to see how many people buy that. Let me know if you guys in the chat are going to buy that, but I may break down and buy that because there's nothing really going on tomorrow, man. And I'll probably get bored or something because I don't usually go out on New Year's. I don't like the madness, so I probably won't go out. I won't go out tomorrow at all. I won't be partying. So, all right, guys. Until next time, Beaver's out. Talk to y'all soon. Have a great day. Stay safe, and everyone have a happy New Year. Beaver's out. Peace.